The One Punch Man versus the Humanoid Typhoon. These two comedic main characters exist close to many viewers' hearts and make their respective series special. Now at a face value, this matchup might seem very one-sided, but hopefully here I can change everyone's mind and give my own input on how strong these protagonists are. Getting into Saitama first, since I believe he's the easier to scale, we first have to establish his already well-known scaling being planetary. This will be brief, but simply put, Saitama in his fight with Boros is able to serious punch the collapsing star roaring cannon, and this attack is stated to be planetary many times, both by Boros himself and any guidebook that addresses the attack. The anime compass even goes as far as to state that the collapsing star roaring cannon could destroy a star. This would be very consistent considering what we see later on against the embodiment of fear, Cosmic Garo. With the introduction of the strongest enemy to date, Saitama's scaling gets a huge upgrade. In his clash with the Cosmic Garo, the Serious Punch Squared completely destroys a huge mass of stars. Where this feat actually scales is pretty controversial, but here we'll be accepting that it's anywhere between multi-solar system to galaxy level. But what's more interesting to me is Saitama's speed scaling. And to start this, I want to establish that he is consistently faster than the speed of light. There's many ways you can get to this conclusion, such as Flashy Flash being stated faster than light, Atomic Samurai reacting to light, and Boros kicking Saitama to the moon at the speed of light. While these aren't the only light speed feats or statements in the series, I just wanted to mention them before I get into the higher end scaling that Saitama gets later on in the series. Saitama scales to the strongest form of Garo to date, which would scale him far above Monster Garo, the same Monster Garo who gets Speed Blitz Platinum S, and this feat is calced at over 188 times the speed of light. But it can get even crazier than that, because against Garo, Saitama destroys Io with one arm and proceeds to dash around all of Io with the pieces of rubble that he created. This feat is even more insane, with calculations reaching anywhere between 600 to billions of times faster than light, which is absurd. With all of that being said, Saitama should scale to about multi-solar system to galaxy level in terms of attack potency, and 600 to possibly billions of times faster than light in terms of speed. Now to get into the 60 billion double dollar man, there's a couple ways you can scale him. We'll start off with the borderline scaling, which is a similar level to early Saitama. As in chapter 20 of the Trigun manga, Vash states that his angel arm would have destroyed the planet, and we know that the planet in Trigun is much larger than our own, as it has multiple moons and stars. This is very consistent, as just the very tip of the angel arm left a huge crater in the moon, which is calculated at multi-continental. But it doesn't end there, as it's heavily implied throughout the series that plants like Vash and Knives have infinite degrees of power, as well as infinite reserves. This is consistent throughout every continuity, as both the reboot anime and the manga lend credence to the idea that plants are infinitely more powerful than anything a human can produce or possibly even perceive, which is absolutely insane because these statements apply to lesser dependent plants and not even stronger forms of both Vash and Knives. But it doesn't end there, because Knives, even after fusing with potentially thousands of other plants, still isn't stronger than Vash with his angel bullets, and in fact it's stated that Vash could have killed this fused Knives. This would apply to both speed and attack potency, as it's implied that Vash could up to fuse Knives in every aspect. The reason I say this is because Knives uses the word abilities, implying overall combat capability, rather than in a single aspect. Now you can see why I said before that this matchup isn't as bad for Vash as most people would think, since Vash is actually both stronger and faster than Saitama. If we go by the scaling presented, then Vash would absolutely stomp Saitama regardless of each combatant's hacks and abilities, but I'm actually going to be giving Saitama the benefit of the doubt here, and saying that he scales to these infinite 3D high universal levels of power as well. And how I'm going to be doing this is using multiple feats from both the anime and manga of One Punch Man, implying that he has infinite levels of power. If we do give Saitama this line of scaling, then the fight is a lot more close than it was before, but Vash would still stomp him out, and I'll explain why. Let's start off with the fact that Vash would still be stronger and faster just due to the fact that Knives absorbs thousands of plants, and each of them have this infinite level of power. Vash would still severely out-hack Saitama, since his bullets suck you into a subspace with a black hole-like structure. It gets worse for Saitama when you realize that even if Saitama were to land a blow on Vash, it would actually not be a good thing for him, since he would instantly start receiving the memories from Vash's life. It would actually get even worse if you think that Saitama is susceptible to hacks like fear manipulation, because we know that plants like Knives, even while sleeping, let off a passive aura that actually makes people fall to their knees and even receive damage simply by being next to him. These abilities would cause problems for Saitama, and under the assumption that this battle is bloodlusted, Vash would simply kill Saitama before he could even think of growing more powerful like he did in his fight with Cosmic Garo. So in conclusion, the Humanoid Typhoon takes the win over the One Punch Man.